everybody, it's me, Iryna Wood, and your show, What Everybody Wants to Know. And today in my offline studio, I have a special guest from Germany. I had to wait for her for a couple of months because she is extremely busy lady and the professional. Ph.D, couples therapist, psychologist, emotional literacy trainer, Lena Kornyeyeva. Hello, Elena.
Hi, Iryna. Nice to meet you again.
Me too. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much that you found time. I know you're quite busy all the time with counseling and seminars, and it was such a pleasure the first time. So we decided to welcome you the other time in our studio, and you agreed. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Today we have a special topic that was actually raised up not by us, but by the audience, because most of my clients and the followers, they asked so much things about the victimizing. And I decided to bring it to the topic of Karpman Triangle. And I think you are the best person to talk to because I know through your biography that you are the person who actually met in person Stefan Karpman, who is a big student and follower of Eric Berne. So please tell us more about what is transactional analysis in general and how was that meeting happening in your life?
Transactional analysis is a method which helps you to understand what happens between you and your partner within your communication. We are analyzing transactions, not the banking transactions, but the exchange of the statements, questions, and emotional reactions between us. So this is the subject of transactional analysis. And yes, you are right. Steve Karpman was a disciple and also a colleague of Eric Berne, whereas he was much younger than Eric, and he presented his concept of drama triangle back then before Eric died. So he was a colleague of him, I would even say. My meeting with him was happened first. We were corresponding because before it was like about 2010, and the ITAA forum, the online forum of the International Association for Transactional Analysis, was very active, and Steve was one of those who answered to some of my questions. Back then I was working at the university and was doing my Ph.D. research, and he helped me a lot, and it was a very nice and very enriching correspondence for me. And then we met in Berlin in 2017, and it was very nice to see him in person.
Thank you. I think when you meet somebody who is legendary, who is a part of the history, and in his case, he's a part of psychological history, I think it's an honor. I think it's the destiny. And, you bring your own signature touch to this history as well. I have a question for you because when people picture the relationship, they usually, most of the times, we think about relationship of two. It could be a parent, it could be a child, it could be your neighbor, it could be your lover, whatever. But I know that drama triangle still embraces three roles, which is victim, rescuer, and prosecutor. How does it actually work? And is it the same person or there are more people and elements involved?
It could be both. Actually, any of the three roles is a substitute of a sincere and open communication in which we could fulfill our needs. So we substitute with the role playing our desire to be loved and cared about. And when we are in the role of a rescuer, for example, we are trying to gain respect and valuing attitude for our doings. It's a conditional love we are trying to deserve, without knowing or without realizing that to this role some intrinsic, some implicit expectations are attached. And if our expectations are not met by the victim or by somebody who is in the role of the victim and being helped by us, then the switch happens and we are in the persecutor. Persecutor is the another role of the same person, and it's marked by the anger, by a specific emotional reaction after the expectation was not met. And it can happen, as I said, both inside of you, like you are switching the roles inside of you. You feel yourself sometimes like a victim, and then like a rescuer, and then like a persecutor, or you play this game with somebody and he switches the roles as well.
While years of counseling and working and talking just generally to people, I think every person thinks good about themselves. Everybody believes they have a motive. Even if you talk to a serial killer, they would say that they are on mission to do something to help the planet. That's why they're killing people who are bad. So this victimizing could be twisted. And, it's such an ambivalent term, I would say. But still, when you're thinking about the victim, they are suffering psychologically. So if it's such a destructive role, why it's such a pleasurable to experience and people are so attached to becoming consciously or unconsciously a victim?
It's a good question, and it's a very deep psychological question, because to realize this guilty pleasure which is attached to the victim role is already a very step forward and a very big deal in the personal development. To the attractiveness, I could say it's the first childhood adaptation. We learn to adapt in a role of victim in a relationship or in a family system where the power is uneven distributed. If the caregivers, your parents, your kindergarten teachers, and so on, have power and you are not, if their emotions are validated and adequate, and your emotions and your perception are not validated and will not be heard and understood properly. So it's all about the power and the phenomenon that the victim cannot get to the power. It is disempowered. So we'll learn to adapt ourselves, and with that, we learn this role of victim. Victim means you have no agency, you have no subjectness, you have no trust in your own power of love. You cannot make an impact, a positive, healthy impact. You have a theoretical ability, but perhaps you have no experience or no skills of that kind. And this makes you a victim. And the attraction of being a victim is in that, care and protection from the side of a caregiver, of a rescuer, of perhaps your partner who overtakes and plays the role of rescuer for a certain time.
Thank you, Elena. I most of the times probably work with women, but I still have a lot of men and couples doing the counseling. And I have to tell you, both genders complaining about their companionship and partnerships, they say, I'm not pleased, I'm not happy with my spouse. I'm dependent emotionally, financially, mentally in a different way, but I still do live with them. So could you tell me, please, what happens actually on a physics level when you're choosing for years to be in a role of a victim?
That's a good question. Something bad happens. I would say even in the long term, it's a damage. What happens really to the victim or to a person who stops in the role of victim and makes no effective efforts or attempts to go out of the role and to use his or her own agency and ability to design the relationship in an adult way. The adult way of relationship means that the both recognize and manifest their own value and worth, and recognize and value the intrinsic worth of one another in the exchange, in the transaction they exchange with. So the victim is somebody who is trying to not to trying to rely on his or her own value, and who is at the same time confirms the value of the rescuer, because the rescuer gains the value in his own eyes and in the eyes of the victim because of his doings, his care, protection, and authority, and all the profits within the relationship. And it's all about value and work.
They say we all come from the childhood, and definitely childhood traumas, which we can't escape for a long time, sometimes being adults. So, what do you think? Which common childhood scenarios could bring to the being a victim in adulthood?
I must think of the three types of scenarios another disciple and colleague of Eric Berne concepted. The no joy scenario, no love scenario, and no mind scenario. It means that a person, doesn't use his adult capacities to lead a joyful life and relationship, or to have love and open-hearted relationship within his life, or he or she doesn't use his adult thinking capacities, like fact-checking and analyzing things, or what is happening here right now, in order to understand how could I manage this conflict, for example, in the best way. So the scenarios anyway come from the childhood adaptations, where we cannot learn our own power of life, and so we learn to rely on our force or manipulative behaviors, which could help us to gain the desirable in our relationship: protection, understanding, acceptance, love, and affection from the caregivers at the very beginning, and then from our partners in our adult life. These kind of scenarios, and there are the entire variety of scenarios we could talk about, and perhaps the next time.
Talking about the manipulation, I'm curious why gaslighting is considered to be more dangerous than an open conflict.
More dangerous and more damaging, I would say, first of all, because of it's a subtle type of manipulation. You cannot recognize it at first. It's a very subtle thing, and it can be wrapped, so to say, in a good intention. And if you hear something like that, you believe or you trust of somebody, or to trust somebody who is saying those things. And the very definition of gaslighting is it is a type of manipulation, or a systematic manipulation, which has the goal to make the object of manipulation to believe that he or she is inadequate. He or she cannot rely on his own perception or thinking ability or his own emotions. So you have no, solid ground under your feet. You can, or you learn to trust to the manipulator more than to yourself.
So that's my actual question. Why the victim starts to doubt not the manipulator, but themselves? It's good to start from yourself. We all know, for self-consciousness and self-awareness. But here it's a little bit different.
Yes. And it's a very tricky and it's a very seductive thing in a close relationship. Actually, we would like to be trusted and to trust. So it's a basic thing. Yeah, we feel safe if we have a partner whom we can trust. Okay. So the thing is that it's an attractive thing for itself. I would like to have a trustful relationship. But what you are talking about, the object of subtle manipulation tends to trust to the abuser more than himself or herself, is because of, he or she didn't learn sufficiently to rely on his or her own estimation or judgment. And it's a kind of, that is why it's a tricky thing. To shorten the distance means I can trust you. To show the autonomy and the ability to decide for yourself can make an impact that there is still a distance, And only for very adult people who are aware of his own abilities and the effects of their actions, it is a space to talk about it openly. And if we are able or feel ourselves able to talk about it openly, can I trust you? What do you mean? What exactly was behind your words? How I feel when you are talking about this and that this way? Then we can build a very open, sincere, and based on a trust relationship, communication and relationship. When we are not able to clarify those things, how can I trust you and why do you say so and so on? We will inevitably playing the games, those games which are marked by, a kind of emotional distance, a kind of role playing when I would like to trust and trust you more than myself, which is unhealthy thing, and so on and so on.
I want to tell you from my own experience when I just met my, by that time, future husband. We have a language barrier, real language barrier. He's American, I'm Ukrainian, and definitely originally we spoke different languages. And I try to be good, but I can't be perfect in a foreign language. So when we communicated at the very early beginning, we had our misunderstandings. And I don't think it was just an impact of different languages. They say in psychology, you still have language barrier while expressing your emotions. So we had a couple of little things to discuss, and I asked him for a favor. I said, when every time we have a little complication, don't forget we speak different languages first. Second, don't forget we came from different polar backgrounds, different families, different educations, different mentalities. If we want to save this relationship, which was always the goal for both of us, let's stop for a second, reflect, and better double check. Like, let's say you didn't understand what I meant because maybe I couldn't find the right synonym in English and I express myself and it creates a bad influence all the whole sentence. So we agreed and now we slow down when needed. And we always clarify. This is the only thing I asked. And since that, everything started to be so simple. I think it takes a moment to reflect from both sides because one thing we always have to remember, if you have chosen each other, we have to keep this primary goal. Whatever is happening right now in between our negotiations or disagreements, this is circumstances. We have to adapt to them. We have to receive, perceive, grow through them, through this even open conflict. But the goal is to clarify things and to stay together.
Yes. This is a very good example. It's a perfect example of being sincere and not to lie to yourself. I would like to ask, I would like to clarify, I declare this my need, and you are helping me to understand you better.
Yeah, but yours always use an I statement. Could you explain to people? Because every time I hear you did something, it's because of you. We both know, being from the same counseling field, that people, when you're speaking through you, you're talking about yourself. Could you explain what does it mean to communicate through I statement and express your emotions in a healthy way in
Yes,
a relationship?
it's all about the intrinsic responsibility. How do you feel and understand it? Because to be an adult, a full-fledged adult means to keep in focus your responsibility for your own emotional reactions and your actions and statements. If you are tending to blame somebody or to see the responsibility outside of yours, of your, responsibility sphere in somebody else, he did something to me or she said something to me, he hurt my feelings, and so on, you are losing your agency, your ability to make an impact. So I value a lot the responsibility because it's a power, and the very specific sort of power. It's a power of love. If I don't recognize the power of love in me, then I have a risk. It's a dangerous thing. I can be a subject of, I can tend to use my force. I can tend to use the abuse the power. Is something which doesn't have to have any space in our relationship. Did I answer your questions?
Absolutely, and actually, I have few more. They're coming and attacking my head because while talking, I always have something, growing in me, and I need to ask you more things. I probably experience. I wouldn't, the counseling could be different. So I think in a spirituality, we call responsibility an opportunity not to complain about somebody else's role, but to say you attracted this person into your life to gain your karmic experience. Maybe it's a different language because I know that psychology is a very respected science, but still that's closer to my approach. I would say maybe being as a self-awareness facilitator more than psychologist myself, even I had a degree in that. But I have to tell you, working with couples, you know what is confusing? Every time when you work with one person, you hear the complaints, and you think, okay, it's reasonable. You listen to this and to realize, because you're still a human, you try not to take any sides. You're working on yourself at the same moment, counseling people. But after you hear the other opposite polar view and you hear, yeah, and his view is very reasonable. That standpoint makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
So that's why I always try to bring people at the same meeting, creating that triangle, when you're independent party. But then they open up. They have to. There is no other choice. You put them in the corner. The thing is, I want to ask you, are there any general but recognized tricks or phrases that you can understand? Okay, that was gaslighting.
Yes. Sometimes I invite the receiver of the message to give the feedback how it feels like to hear that statement or that question. And it's all about emotions. You have to be aware of your emotional response. We have always a response. It can be a slight, teeny tiny response, or it can be very intense feeling. And I invite the person to realize what kind of response it was and to find the proper words to express them. And then it's understandable to the other what kind of impact he caused with his statement or question or blaming, for example, or a subtle gaslighting thing. And I always invite the both of them to understand the effects which occur within their communication and to recognize the triggers, the things that are causing those emotional reactions. Because for somebody, it is a gaslighting. For example, you asked about the typical phrases. It can be something like, this is not what I meant, or you are so sensitive, you are overreacting, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be a bad intention behind those words, but sometimes the person who says so just trying to protect him or herself with that. It's not a bad intention. It's just the only thing he or she can say at the moment. So my part is not to blame, not to create another bad feeling about his or her actions, but to invite them to understand the effects and to communicate openly, open-heartedly about those effects. And as far they understand what the effects are, they can start communicate differently. They can be careful and more open or more precise with their wordings, and then the game is over.
To learn how to love yourself and build up healthy relationships with yourself and others, download Gemini Miami. It's your one-stop shop for all self-discovery tools with access to the community of like-minded individuals.
Elena, I live in the United States, you're in Germany. They're both pretty strong, career-oriented countries, which with a lot of willpower in a different way. And I'm sure that through your life and counseling experience, you work with a lot of powerful women. So my question is, why this disciplined, determined, go-getting, successful, money-making, talented, gifted, strong women get into manipulative or even sometimes abusive relationships?
It's a very good question, and the answer is the shortest version of this answer would be because they are originally all good girls.
Are they? Because they don't look like that at the end of their life career. I don't want to say life, we never know. But I mean, like, they look like whole thing they're interested is get their power, money, and they're pretty strict and they create emotional gap with the other people. So you have no idea sometimes if she's carrying a good heart and good intention.
Yes, a good girl means they were trying, they learned to adapt and to adjust themselves to meet others' expectations. They gain, success in the school, in the university, and in their career because they put a lot of efforts to become somebody out of the intrinsic desire to be a good girl in the eyes of somebody, of a caregiver, of a father who is a very successful man, or of a mother who is a very demanding mother figure, and so on. And the tendency to get into a manipulative and this destructive relationship is, these high demands to to themselves and their perfectionism, the tendency to demand of themselves a lot, means you find a partner who is translating the high demands on you, and they take it as they take it seriously, and they are trying to adjust themselves to this kind of figure, which is very demanding and probably emotionally cold, and probably is unable to give the protection and love and acceptance they need. And they are trying to gain and gain and gain. And that is why these relationships are mostly very unhappy.
Elena, I have a situational question for you of our listener. And the question is that she's in a good relationship, quality, looks like healthy from this side, happy and fulfilling. The thing is that the lady, she can't relax. She feels like everything is wonderful, everything, love is unlimited, opportunities are unlimited, traveling is unlimited, money is unlimited, everything is perfect. People think she lives in a wonderland, but while communication, she is walking on the eggshells.
Yeah.
And she never had an open conflict that she can remember, but she knows, God forbids, something she says or attacks or confronts the partner, she'll be, in trouble. Or maybe it's just her fear that came from somewhere else. Could it be a hidden abuse, but not an open emotional, mental, or physical abuse?
Yes, it can be, as well as it can be her own script. Script is an unconscious idea of life which is written in your deepest childhood. Kind of, as a child, you are trying to grasp the idea of life. You are trying to map the reality and to understand where will you be in your adulthood. For example, I will be that kind of man. And it's a subtle and very unconscious thing. In our adult relationships, we are reenacting the script messages we've got from our parental figures. And those script messages can be, if a child, no matter a girl or a boy, could not get unconditional love and acceptance and understanding and protection from his or her parental figures, if he or she had to earn it, to deserve it, yeah, then this personality learns to feel unsafe and to adjust. He or she is detached from her or his emotional sphere. He or she does not realize their needs and cannot articulate those needs in order to be understood, heard, listened, heard, understood properly, and that their needs would be met by the partner. Because the thing is that we are establish our relationship in order to get our needs fulfilled, aren't we? So we have to be able to talk about it. We have to be clear about what is hurting us or what is difficult, perhaps uncomfortable for us. We have to be able to articulate it to the partner in a non-devaluing way in order to be properly understood. So the situation you described sounds like she didn't learn to confront the difficulties, to find the proper words, and to be a full-fledged adult, and to take care of herself first of all, and to be understood by the partner. It's a gift.
Sometimes when I watch people who are going to the counseling, and I think we all do somehow, at least one session, probably every person in the planet did. And they say even psychologists, they need another psychologist to apply and address. But I have to tell you, people sometimes they're not looking to get help. They are looking just to be heard and understood because they are not understood somewhere else. And I have two more questions. They were pretty similar situations, so I kind of united them. Two ladies again. Apologies, no discrimination. We love men, but maybe ladies were more active while preparation of this interview. So one girl, she's criticized that she doesn't carry enough weight, and she has to gain weight, and she has to have a bigger buttocks and bigger chest and bigger this and bigger that. So one husband is complaining about this. The other couple husband is complaining that she has to lose weight and she has to go to the gym and she has to work on herself. But both these couples, they are living forever. They're united through I'm not sure about businesses, but I know like properties for sure, and kids and friends, and they're not quitting their relationship.
Mhm.
So I'm curious why abuser or dominative spouse, and it could be vice versa, it could be a lady who is talking badly about her husband. I have that type of clients too, but they were not a part of this preparation, constantly complaining, never satisfied, but forever together. So why people don't just quit and leave it the other person alone to be live happily after? Why?
There are many answers to these questions. It can be anything. It can be also the unconscious attempt to gain a bit of attention and to get some strokes, a kind of recognition from your side, because you are an empathetic person and you are a good listener. So they entrust you some of their troubles. It can be something different. It can be a kind of adaptation they live and they are compatible and they have no alternative or they don't see another option, or the major change in their lives would be very expensive in an emotional or in a financial or both ways, so they are not ready to pay that price. And
It's better to listen, yeah?
yeah. Or
It's cheaper.
yeah, it's much cheaper to just talk about it a bit and to go home and to experience that kind of troubles or difficulties. But sometimes it is more the phenomenon on the surface. What I mean is, look, the power abuse is not always an evil thing. It is often the effect or the manifestation of the subjectively perceived helplessness of the abuser at the moment. So the abuser, he or herself, is not a bad guy or bad person, but just somebody who didn't find another way to get the desirable in his or her relationship. It means that the partner knows that and tolerates this way of getting the desirable, and this kind of exchange between them can keep them together.
And you just don't want to suck somebody else's blood because you got used to this one. So why, let's say, sometimes partners become brave and they say, okay, that's the last drop. After New Year, after 8th of March, after February 14, we get separated. Enough is enough. And at this moment, their partner changes the role and they get an ideal spouse. What happens at this moment?
Uh, the game changed, and the rescuer or the abusive partner doesn't want the victim to go. So the victim should get something in order to have some reasons to stay. So another act of this game starts. Yes.
So it's so complicated. It's so many roles. It's so many changes. It's so blood-sucking. It's so destructive. It's even dangerous for your health, because when you keep grudges and you're full of pain, offenses, and destruction, sooner or later it would be converted into a serious disease. People are not thinking about it because I don't know what's better. It's better to shout out your emotions, so it's better to keep them and work them out spiritually, meditating, praying, whatever people choose. But why people are so addicted to this intoxication?
They are addicted if they have no other option or they don't see another option until the moment they have the source, the enough capacities to endure this, uncomfortable situation. Sooner or later, the point happens when the person cannot endure it any longer and it stops.
Yeah, but why people consider it to be the biggest, strongest emotion in your life? That's my karmic partner. I want to die because of him. I want to suicide. That's the end of the world. People are using such powerful sayings, and they're like, I don't know about physical, but they are mentally, morally dying, crying, starting to use drugs, cigarettes, alcohol abuse, but still considered to be love. In my eyes, love is different. It's about to care about yourself and the person. Because when we love plants, we water them. When we love our fancy car, we put the best gas. When we love the person, we have to ruin their psyche. Why that happens?
Uh, Something happened with the design of love in the childhood. The thing is that these intense emotions are happening always on the level of our fundamental needs. Love and affection and the attachment is all about a fundamental need to be loved, to be cherished, to be valued by the very special partner we choose for the life. So any threat to this attachment is perceived as a very dangerous thing. You know, for our limbic brain, this kind of danger means a great alarm. We are experiencing fear, and out of this fear we are doing some crazy things. And when we've got the partner back, when it's love again, and when we feel safe again, it's an exciting and very pleasant feeling. So this discrepancy between this fear and between this pleasure, this huge change feels like something very significant for your life, for your very existence. That is why people think that's the real love. But as you told, of course, love is about cherishing and being soft and using your power of love and understanding, not about those games.
Two more ladies in a similar type of relationship, married to British gentlemen and to American gentlemen. Why I'm mentioning this? Because we carry different mentalities and we judge a little bit from where we came from. The type of a man businessman, definitely I can picture a little bit, but still they're very emotional businessmen. They're pretty reserved. These ladies are openly telling me I'm doing whatever to get his emotions because I look at my husband, 25 years we together. He's unbelievable. He's taking care of me emotionally, mentally, financially, and all. I was sick. He opened the door. He carried the wheelchair. He gave me the crutches. He paid all the bills. He takes care of the whole family, including my parents. And I have no clue if he loves me or not because he's emotionally unavailable. So, what do you think about these people? Why they're not showcasing their true emotions? They didn't learn how to do it, or they're just afraid of their true emotional intimacy? What's going on with that people?
Mhm. The best sources of the questions could be the men you are talking about. I can only express some hypotheses. One could be, being a successful man in a tough world of business means you have to be strong. Being strong means you have no silly emotions like a lady or like a little girl. And the second one could be, many people, especially those who are successful and very, affect oriented, they tend to spare on emotions and signs of affection and love and care because they perceive them sometimes as a kind of weakness or something which is not very compatible with a high status. You cannot be a leader and an empathetic person at the same time. You can be at home and empathetic, but not everyone switches his roles from being a businessman and a leader and a top manager, and at home he's a very cozy and very soft and very warm father. Somebody manages it, but not everyone.
Okay, and probably the final question, but I have to answer. My very first marriage was at 23 years old. I came from a good family. When father was a gentleman, mother was a lady. They grew together in spiritual and mentally, emotionally, financially. They did everything together. So I saw a lot of respect, mutual support, and equality in a good sense when woman is a woman, man is a man. But somehow I got into bad destructive relationship with an emotional abuser. And right now I consider my ex-husband to be my big mentor and teacher. I learned how to embrace gratitude from those relationships and actually extremely thankful for a lot of things. But it took time for me to get there. My question is, I knew after that relationship, because I got into the therapy for 3 years in person before I started to learn psychology myself, that I knew exactly what I don't want in life. But I know so many people, after learning all those things, after being burned so hard, they still picked up the same type of relationship. Thank God I did it. I'm in a beautiful marriage right now. But I know that victims love it subconsciously, maybe, or maybe that's the only thing they know. So, how that happened for our audience, please, if somebody is suffering right now or trying to get out of the abusive or relationship with a narcissist, maybe, and they can't help themselves because they're picking up the same type of partnership again and again, how do they should start work on themselves and make a conscious choice next time?
Oh, it's a wonderful question, and it's a huge question, and it's all about their own permission, first of all, to themselves. Like
Love it.
I'll allow me to learn, first of all, to live my better life. I allow me to be sincere with myself, first of all. I allow me to be loved and protected and respected. And I allow me to confront any difficulty I experience with my perspective or probably already partner in order to harmonize my relationship. You know, many people have no permission of that kind inside of them. And it's often the work of the psychologist to give that permission in order that the person would be able to give that permission to him or herself.
Elena, thank you so much for this deep and resourceful and inspiring, healing, therapeutical, profound conversation with you. Thank you again for your time and energy, and everybody who is interested in addressing and having a session with Elena for couples or individual therapy, please check it out in the link below. You will have it under this video. And for our audience, learn to love yourself and trust the process. And please don't forget to download my self-confidence and self-love app that is always there for you. I think like this, we are dreaming our partners to be.